This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So last session we have discussed about the EBS volumes and snapshots. EBS volumes are nothing but extra storage for your server. So I want extra storage for my server. Like what are the virtual server I have created? So for that server, I require extra space. So to create extra space, we have to go with EBS volumes. So we can attach the EBS volumes, like a custom volumes, we can attach it. We can have extra volume to your servers. So that can be done via EBS volumes. So how many servers are there? So we can add a number of volumes to the server. Only thing we need to remember, so we can go with availability zone. The server and the volume should be in the same availability zone. So then only we can attach the extra volume. So this volume is like how much space you require for extra volume. So we can add it. Okay. So, but when it comes to the snapshot, snapshot is nothing but it's a backup of volumes. So today I want to take the backup, tomorrow I want to take the backup, day after tomorrow I want to take the backup of my volume. So in case of any failure happen to my server, so what we can restore the data. So we can restore the data of the server. So with the help of the snapshots. So when compared to the volume, volumes are a little bit costly when compared to the snapshots. Snapshots are very less chargeable when compared to the volumes. Okay, so that's the reason we can going to have the snapshots. We can create a backups of your volumes with the help of the snapshot. Okay, so for every volume we can create n number of snapshots. So those snapshots we can keep in a snapshot site. Okay, so if you go here snapshot page, so if you want to create a snapshot, we can create a snapshot of a respective volume. Click on create snapshot. So which volume you want to select it. We can select the volume and just provide the tag name. So if you want to have the tag name, so we can have the tag name. So custom snapshot. That's it. So whatever the data which resides in this particular volume, so the data will be, we can take the backup with the help of the snapshot. So with a single volume, we can take n number of backups. I have volume is there. So with single volume, I can take n number of snapshot. The point of time when you are taking the snapshot, so that point of time, what is the data which resides in this volume? So the data will be present in this particular snapshot. Okay, so now this point of time, I have taken the snapshot of the particular volume. So tomorrow I can come here and can click on the snapshot. So if you want to go with the instance level, entire instance volumes, you can take it, or respect to volume, we can take it. So while taking the snapshot doesn't depend upon the availability zone. So currently I'm in the particular availability zone where I can take the snapshot. That is not the scenario. So we can take any volume with the snapshot. Again, what are the snapshots we can create it? So with the help of the snapshots, again, we can create a new volumes. So with again single snapshot, we can create n number of volumes. So I want to create a multiple volumes with different availability zones. So with single snapshot, so this is my snapshot. What I can do, again, I can go to the actions tab. So I can create a volume from this snapshot. Whenever you are creating the volume, so which availability zone you want to create it. So this volume I want to attach to the server, which is present in the different availability zone. So the volume which is present in one availability zone. Okay, so we can create a snapshot and we can create a same type of volume in another availability zone also. Okay, so that is a scenario we can go with. server which is present in, okay, so we can take the, so this is my server. A server can have a number of volumes. Okay, so one server can be attached to the n number of volumes. So these volumes and the server should be in the same availability zone. For example, my server is in 1D availability zone, and the volume also should be in the same availability zone, or it may be in the different availability zone. Suppose this is volume 2, so this is present in 1D availability zone. So this is volume 3, 1D availability zone. So what we can do, so n number of volumes, again what I can do, so single volume I can take n number of snapshots. Okay, so with the volume what I can take the snapshot 1, snapshot 2. Okay, so we can take n number of snapshots. So with a single volume, I can take n number of snapshots, but these snapshots are not belong to the any availability zone. So just it will provide a snapshot ID for us. So what we can do, so again with the snapshot, so my server is present in, so I have another server. So the server is present in something like a 1C availability zone. This is my second server. So I want to attach the same volume. I want to attach to the server which is present in the different availability zone. Is it possible? In the interview question they will ask it. Yes, it is possible, but directly we can't attach the volume to the server, because our concept is the volume and server should be in the same availability zone. So it is not possible. Even one volume we can't attach to the 2 servers at a time. So if this volume is attached to this server, so we can't attach this volume to this server. So what I can do, so from this volume at this point of time how much data is there, so I can take the snapshot. From this snapshot I can create new volume from it. Okay, so but this volume what I can do, I can create a volume in 1C. So this volume I can attach to the my server. Okay, so this is the repetitive process. So how many volumes, what are the volume we have it, so we can have the volume, we can create a snapshot. So with the help of snapshot again we can create a volumes, n number of volumes, so that value we can attach to the server. Okay, otherwise if you don't want to lose the data, same volume I want to attach to another server, so we can eject from this server. So from this volume we can create a snapshot, so that value we can add. Okay, so this is the scenario about the volumes and snapshot. So volume is nothing but storage, extra storage, how much storage you require for the server, so we can add that storage for the server. Okay, so when you are doing any kind of activity like custom value where you are, so this is a custom value when you are attaching to the Windows server or Linux server, so we need to perform some manual operations inside the server, and one volume cannot be attached to the 2 servers at a time. So but I want a concepts like shared volume. What is meant by concept of shared volume? So what is this mean by shared volume is nothing but all servers data should share the data across single volume. Okay, so now my server is in different availability zones are there here. So this is my server, this is my second server, this is my third server. So these servers are present in different availability zone, 1A, 1C, 1D availability zone. So what will happen? So I want to share the data across the servers. So whatever the data we are writing here, so that has to be copied automatically here. So these 3 servers data should be shared across each other. So there should be a common shared file system. Okay, so what we will be having? So we can have a common shared file system. So what this will do? So we can attach this shared file system to the all this to the servers which are present in the different availability zones, and we can attach this to the shared file system. So what this will do, so whenever we are writing the data into this server, so that data will be written to the file system. So this file system which are all the servers has been added, so the data will be shared across the multiple servers. Okay, so this concept we can implement via, so in the real-time scenarios, so I want to share the data across the multiple servers with a common data source or common shared file system. So in that case, we can go with EFS or NFS. Okay, so EFS is nothing but elastic file system, network file system. Okay, so by using this EFS and NFS, what we can do, we can have a shared volume. So with the data present, like the servers which are present in the different availability zone. So I want to share the data across the servers without any manual interactions. Okay, so whenever I write any data or file here, so that can be shared across the multiple servers. So in order to achieve this one, extra thing is like, so we need to know about the service called EFS. So for this one, what we do, so we are going to launch some 3 servers here. Okay, so I'm going to create one security group, create a security group, EFS security group. Okay, so this common security group I'm adding to all the servers. So add inbound rule. So here I'm giving the all traffic. Okay, specifically if you want to go with NFS. So NFS, if you want to enable the NFS in your servers, so then only we can achieve this concept. So what are the NFS port? 2049 is the NFS port. So if this port is enabled in this all these servers, so then only we can share the volume across the data across the multiple servers. NFS, EFS, elastic file system or network file system. So that will be running on the port 2049. So even if you are following the process correctly, if the port is not enabled here in this server, NFS port, so then we can't achieve the shared file system. Okay, so to connect to this one, so we are adding NFS rule. Another one is I need to connect to the servers via SSH. All traffic we are enabling for SSH. NFS port we are enabling it. Okay, so if this doesn't work, we will enable the all traffic here. All the ports we are enabled. So time being, I'm enabling the SSH and NFS port. So this is a custom security group. I'm creating it. Okay, so 2 ports I've enabled it. One is NFS port, another one is SSH. 22 port and 2049. 2 ports only I have enabled in the server. So when it comes to the EC2 dashboard, so I'm going to launch 3 instances. The 3 instances should be in the different availability zone. So if you click on launch instance, so if you go and launch 3 instances, like number of instances equal to 3. So what will happen? So if you go and launch the number of instances equal to 3, same identical servers will be launched, but the availability zone also will be the same. So I don't want like that. So the server should be in the different availability zones. So that's the reason I will go with number of instances. So I will go with something like a first server. Go with instance type is fine. Only thing is we need to focus on the security group. So instead of creating the security group, so we are selecting the existing security group. The existing security group is default and EFS security group. Launch instance. Okay, so based upon this availability zone which we are going to launch it, so first server is launched in the 1A. So remaining servers I am going to launch in 1C and 1D server. So just launch one more instance. So I'm going to launch second server. Same thing here. Just go with Linux second 2 AMI. Instance type key pair. So in the network settings, already we have launched a server in 1AC. I'm going with 1C server. And security group, we are selecting default launch instance. Okay, so now two servers has been launched. So first server is in 1A and second server is in 1C. So I'm going to launch one more server. Third server, I'm going to launch it. Third server. Key pair, preferences, VPC. I'm going with 1D availability zone. Select the security group. I'm going with okay. So for all the three servers, the security group will be same. TCP port and everything. Now three servers I have launched it. So for three servers, the three servers are in different availability zone 1A, 1C and 1D. Okay, so we'll go to the dashboard and we'll check only the running instances. So third server will be coming up and running. Okay. Now you can see three servers have been launched. The three servers are in different availability zones. So meanwhile, the servers are up and running. So we are going to set up the EFS part. So type for the service name like EFS or NFS. So we can see. So we can see managed file storage for EC2. So common storage for all type of servers which are present in the different availability zone or same availability zone. So you want to share the data across the multiple servers with common file system. In that cases, we'll go with EFS. So just we'll go to the EFS. So click on create a file system. So just create the file system name. So test file system. Okay. So just click on the customize. So standard. So we'll go with VPC. Nothing is there much more. So here automatically we have to select the VPC. So our servers will be present in how many availability zones. So if you are going with a custom VPC, so we need to select the custom VPC here. So here the security group we are going to select is not the default one. So we are going to select the both the security groups we have selected it. So because we are going to work with NFS 2049 should be enabled in the server. So subnet three availability zones we have selected. If the particular VPC, if the availability zones are not selected, so we have to select the availability zones. So next click on next, create. Okay, so this file system name which we have created it, either we can click on the file system ID or we can click on the file system name. So here we have the option called attach. So this attach, so this command we need to help to enter in your server. So mount helper is the one of the mechanism which help us to our file system. We can mount to the our server folder. So after colon, whichever the folder name we are seeing here, you can create any folder. So this folder, what we will do? So whatever the data we are writing in this particular folder in the server, so the data will be written in your particular file system. So to link up this folder and the file system information, so we are going to use the command called mount. Okay, so this mount command will help us to mount your file system to the respective folder in your server. So which folder of data you want to, for example, I'm going to create one folder here. So whatever the data we are writing here, suppose I'm creating test.txt. Okay, this folder name which we are creating it. So this folder name, what we need to do? So we need to have a mount path to the particular file system. So we are linking up our folder of our server to the file system. So for this file system, we will have the file system information. So fs something ID will be given by the team. So now we need to create a mount path. So this mount path will help us to share the data across the servers. So whenever you are creating any folder, that folder you are providing the mount path to your server. So what will happen? So whenever you are creating a data, this data will be added into the file system. So this file system, if it is added to the server, automatically, so the file will be shared across to the folder here. Automatically, we will create one folder here. It will add the file automatically. So even if you are providing in the 1D server, if you are writing any data in the particular folder, so the data will be shared across the multiple servers. Okay, so this is called as a shared file system. So let us see the example so that you people can understand the real-time example how it works. So now we have this mount helper path. This is the command. So this is a custom path. Which path you want to make it as, that path we need to create it. Otherwise, if we are having existent path also, we can provide the path here. Okay, so just we will go to the servers now. So now the 3 servers are up and running. So I want to see the servers side by side. So in that cases, I'm going with tool called MobiXterm. So this MobiXterm tool is used to see the server side by side. So if you are connecting one server only, so we can go with a putty. But this MobiXterm software will help us to, we can see the servers, like n number of servers, we can see side by side only. If I am working with single server, I can go with putty. If you want to work more than one server at a time, so then we can go with MobiXterm. So MobiXterm is also free software. So just we have the home edition is there and we have professional edition is there. So professional edition is chargeable. So for our training purpose and for practice purpose, this home edition is fine. So just click on download and install. Next. So once you install, you can open this one. You can see the details like this. Okay, so now in order to connect to the any server, so there is a session keyword is there. So as the iconic symbol like system symbol is there, so click on the session. So how you are going to connect to the server, n number of ways are there. So our mechanism is always connecting via SSH only. Just click on the SSH. It will ask for your host details, which username based upon the server we are selecting it. So we have to pass the username. In the advanced SSH settings, it will ask for the private key. Same mechanism to connect it. Here the options are different. Same Linux machine we can connect via MobiXterm also. So we will go to the server, like first a server I want to go it. So first server I want to connect it. Take the public IP, enter here. So username is, what is the username? So I'm using Linux machine. So the default username is EC2 user. I can go to the advanced settings, click on private key, select the private key. Okay, click on the downloads, click on the keys. Temp file is fine for connecting the MobiXterm. So click on OK. So if you are able to see the private IP address, so we have successfully connected the server. Okay, so we are getting the server. So to understanding it, just I'm renaming the server as a first server. Okay, ls or history you can see. So nothing has been done, just it's a plain server. Same thing I want to connect to the second server also. Just to click on the session again. So click on the SSH. Again, we can connect to the second server also. Just to click on the second server, take the public IP, EC2-user, advance, private key, browse that, select the key, accept. Okay, so ls history. Nothing has been done in this server too. Okay, to understanding, just we are renaming the tab to the second server. Okay, so this is first server. My first server IP is 44.164. My second server is 15.106. Same thing, if you want to connect one more server, just click on the session, click on SSH, select your third server. So why we are seeing 3 servers is nothing but we have launched the 3 servers in different availability zone. So that's the reason we are choosing 3 servers. Advance, choose private key, accept. Okay, so clear the screen, ls history. So if you see the server details, this is 1917 is my third server, 15106 is my second server, 44164 is my first server. So like that, I have connected 3 servers successfully. So just for understanding purpose, I'm giving the server names here. Okay, so just ls. Okay, nothing is there in this server. So what I'm going to do it, so in order to implement the mounter help parts, so we need to install some software here. So that software is gem install Amazon EFS utils. So elastic file system, if you are going to implement it, so this package has to be there in the server. So that is it will not comes with you. So we have to install this software in order to perform your same thing. We can implement same thing we can implement here. Okay, so now this part is clear, but this part is like which folder you want to create as a mount path in each server. So we can create a folders here. So what we can do, so I can create one directory. Just I'm logging with root, make directory. So I'm creating one directory here. So slash first server I'm creating, make directory, make directory, sorry, slash first server. Okay, so this is the first server I have created in the slash. So what I can do, so I can prepare one first server. Same thing, I can create one more folder, second server too. In another server, I'm creating one more folder. So I'm creating one more folder in third server. So here, so if you see here cd slash first server I'm going. So if you see the current path, so I'm in the first server folder. Same thing if you go here, so I can create, so make directory second slash second server, make directory slash second cd slash second server. So present working directory, I'm in the second server. Same thing I'm going with third server also. So clear the screen. So make sudo root user. So make directory mkdir slash third server, cd slash third server. So if you see the current path, I'm in the third server. So in the third server, I don't have any files. Same thing if you go for the second server, I don't have any files. So first server also, I don't have any files. So now what we need to do, so whichever the folder you have created, I'm going to provide the mount path here. So if it is in my first server, so I'm created a folder slash first server. So it is look for the first server. So whatever the data I'm writing in the first server folder, so the data will be written here. Okay, so if you get an error means there is a problem with the space, we can remove the extra space here. Okay, we didn't get any error. Same thing we can implement the for second server also. So apply this command and go to your second server, apply the command. So we didn't get any error. The folder is correct only. So it is expecting the folder. Same thing we can go and run the third server also. Okay, so now if you see here, third server I don't have any file. Second server I don't have any file. So first server also I don't have any file. So in the first server I'm going to create one file in my here. Touch something like one file I'm creating. H.txt. So now if you are creating any file in my particular folder, what will happen? So it should copy into your file system. So the file system is shared across how many servers are there. So which folder you have created as a mount path. So in that folder, it should be shared across it. So if it is not shared means there is a something problem with your configurations. So if you see ls, okay, so we will go to the slash folder. So we will check something like a temp folder. Mount path will try to create. So third space already mounted. Okay. Run with normal user cd slash hello.txt. Okay, now you can see. So hello.txt haven't created in my third server. So hello.txt haven't created in my second server, but I have done the work in my first server. Okay, if you see, this is my first server. So here, whatever the folder data we are creating, even if you go to the cd slash second server ls. Okay, so now I'm in the second server. I haven't done anything work in the first server itself. You can see the present working directory. So I'm in the second server folder. So here I'm into the first server folder. So same thing, you can go and check here. Exit cd slash third server. Present working directory, third server. Whichever the folder in whichever the server and which availability zone server is there. So if you create a mount path to the file system, so now I'm working in a second server. So here I'm going to create second.txt. So this file I'm creating from the second server. Okay, so just we'll apply the sudo. So I have created a file called second.txt. So where I have created this second.txt in my second server. But if I go to my first server, automatically it will be shared. So if you go to my third server also, that file will comes. So now here I'm going to create a third file in my third server. What will create it? So sudo, I'm going to create a file in my third server here, third.txt ls. Now you can see 3 files are there in third system. So here previously 2 files are there. But if you do ls, so we can see the third.txt. Okay, so that is the concept behind your file system information. So in the real-time scenario, if you want to have the shared file system, like all the servers data I want to share across the servers data, so there should be a common file system. Like EBS versus file system means EBS means only one volume we can attach to the one server at a time. But I don't want like that. I want a common file system. So the data should be shared across the multiple servers. In that cases, we will go with EFS or NFS. So this elastic file system, what we'll do? So we can create a mount path by using this command. So this file system details, they will provide it. So which folder you want to mount it in the server? So that folder path we need to specify it. Okay, so whatever the data we are writing in this folder, so the data will be written in the file system. So this file system is mounted to how many folders it has been mounted. So the data will be copied automatically. So that we are going to call it as a shared volumes. Okay, one volume only, one file system only, we can share the data across the multiple servers. So if you are reading any data from the particular servers, if you are writing the data in one server, but the reading happening in this server. What will our internet will do? The data will be shared across to the file system. The file system will be copied automatically to the all the servers. Okay, so this is the way we can implement the shared file system information. Okay, so you can done any kind of a work. If you want to create any directory or anything, so just we can create a directory. So first folder. So if you are creating any kind of a work in this server, okay, files or folder, anything you are doing it, so automatically it will be shared across your file system, and what are the servers which are created, automatically it will share. Okay, so this is all the servers should be in the same network, and NFS port should be enabled in this server. Okay, mount path should be created properly, and we need to give whenever we are running the mount command, so we need to give the space. Otherwise, if you combine like this, it will not work. Okay, so we should give the space, extra space, while creating the mount path. Okay, so this information will get from the NFS or EFS, so where we can click on the file system information, and just click on the file system, which file system you have created it. So this file system, just click on the attach. So we can attach this file system to a number of ways by using NFS client or EFS mount helper. So this is the command we can go it. So if you are good at NFS client is there, so we need to follow this mechanism. Okay, so two ways we can attach the shared volume to the servers. Okay, so this is very important concept. Most of the use case scenarios in the real time will be like a shared volume only. So they have a multiple servers. These multiple servers are in the load balancers. So they are putting the logs, they are putting the important files in the important server, but reading will be happening in the any one of the servers which are present in the load balancers. So in that cases, they will go with the shared file system. So the data will be written to the file system. Even the server goes down or server having a problem, the data will be there in the file system itself. So in the future, if we are attaching any new server also, so in the future, if you are attaching the new server also, so we need to add this file system to, we can add this file system to the new server. So the data resides in this file system, it's copied automatically to your server. Okay, so like that we can implement the shared file system. Okay, so this is the way we can implement it. Only thing is, so in order to implement this mount command, if you want to run it, so we need to run this yum install -y Amazon EFS utils. This command has to be run in all the servers, and security groups level NFS port like 2049 should be enabled in the server. Okay, so these are the things we need to take care of it. Got it, guys? Any doubts, any questions?
No, thank you.
Yeah. So next thing is we have one more important concepts like so public IP versus private IP versus elastic IP. Okay, so public IP, private IP, and elastic IP. So when it comes to the three kind of IPs, for every server we have a generally we know only two IPs, public and private. So when you see here, so this is my server. So I have public IP and private IP. So if you want to connect to this server, so this is in a particular network. Okay, so for example, this server is in particular network. Okay, so this is something like a network, we can call it as a VPC network. So this is in a particular VPC. So in the particular VPC, we have availability zones. In the particular availability zone, pool of IP address, it will pick one IP address, and we are going to create a one server. So if you want to connect to this server from externally, from outside of this network, so this is my personal system. This is my personal system. So if I want to connect from my personal, I'm not belongs to this particular network, but still I want to connect to the AWS network. I want to connect to this particular server. Okay, so from my local system, I'm trying to connect to the AWS server. Okay, so you have all the details, but if you want to provide a communication from my server to their server, so if you want to access that server, so always will communicate via public IP. So if you use private IP, we can't communicate, we can't connect to the server from our outside of the network. So from this outside of the network, this server have two types of IPs are there. One is public IP and private IP. So public IP only we can connect from outside of the network. So by using the private IP, if you are trying to connect outside the network, so we always get the connection refused. So private IP, we can connect it via internally only. So this server to this server, if you want to communicate it, so we can use private IPs. Internally within the network, if you want to communicate it, so we can go with private IP. So if you want to share any file to your colleague or anything, so you both are in the same network. So that's the reason we are able to send the files. So we can communicate it, we can share the screen, we can give the control to that other person. So that happens because both the systems are in the same network. So if you come out of this network, if you are come out of the office from your personal laptop, if you are trying to connect your this desktop, it is not possible. Okay, so within the network you can communicate via private IP, but if you want to come outside of your network, so if you want to communicate or if you want to connect it, so we always go with public IP. Public IP can be connected from anywhere, but private IP we can connect internally only. So for every IP address, this IP address, how it is generating, this IP address is how it is generating. So this IP address is like a CADR block will be there. So from the pool of CADR block, we have a subnets are there. So when it comes to the VPC network, I will show you what is CADR block. So how the IP address is picking up. For every server, we have two types of IPs are there. So one is IP4 range. Another one is IPv6 range. So these two types of IPv4 and IPv6 ranges there. Okay, so whenever we type Windows R, so when it comes CMD, so for every system, so when you type ipconfig command here, okay, so what will give? So generally we have, this is IP4 address. So it's a 4-digit, like 4 dots will be there. So each starts with 192, something like 10 dots, some series will be there. So we can easily remember IP4 address. But if you want to have IPv6 address for your system, so defaultly IPv6 address is also allocated to your system. So you can see IPv6. This is IPv6 address for systems. So even if you want to IPv6 address, so how to set up the IPv6 address and how to enable the IP4 address? I want to enable only public IP. I don't want public IP. I want only private IP. So how to enable all these concepts? So we can see in the VPC. We can create our own network. So that network we are going to call it as a custom network. So there we can see CADR blocks, public and private. Okay, how the IP address will be allocated. So how to divide the blocks of IP address. So how the network will works, we will see in the VPC concept. Okay, so here we need to remember about every server will have IP4 and IPv6 address. So nobody will remember. It is difficult to remember the IPv6 address, but you can easily remember IP4 address. So some big companies, they don't go with IP4 address to provide more security for the servers. So what they will go with, they will enable the IPv6 address. They will disable the IP4 address. So most of the use cases in the real-time scenarios, most of the projects will be, all the servers will have IP4 address only. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 series only. But when it comes to the 16 IPv6, we have this setup. It's a random one, it will be generating. Okay, so here for our servers, on-demand instances, we have public IP and private IP. So if you use this private IP, so if you're trying to connect this private IP, authenticate, browse. Okay, so when I'm trying to connect to the private IP, we are never connect to your private IP from outside of your network. Okay, so I don't have the public IP. If you have only private IP, how can connect it? So I will show in the later classes. So if you are connecting to the any AWS servers, so always we will connect via public IP only. Okay, so you can see network error, connection timeout. So if you want to connect with any servers, so all your security groups, key pairs, everything is there with you. But if you want to connect your servers from outside of network, so we always choose public IP. But so if you see here, my third server IP address is this one. This is my public IP. And private IP will never change. How many times you restart the server? the private IP will never change. Okay, so if you take the private IP, once the private IP is assigned to the server, so if you restart the server a number of times, the private IP will never change. But here in the case, so if you go and stop the instance, my third server, I stopped it. So once you stop the server, so the public IP will be refresh the page. So once the server is stopped, you can see the public IP address is vanished. Okay, so what are the public IP address you have noted here? So 18.177.149.238 is my public IP. So if you see my public IP here, it will be empty when you stop the server. So the private IP will never change. So now if you start the same server here, so I'm going to start my third server here again. So what will happen? It will create a new public IP. So we can't connect with this IP. So whenever you restart any kind of a AWS EC2 servers, so the public IP will be keep on vanishing it. So always it will try to assign it. So the AWS don't want to waste the IP address unnecessarily if the server is stopped. So the server can be stopped a number of times. Okay, so that's the reason what it will be doing. So it will be like they don't want to waste the IP address. So what they were going to do, they have a pool of IP address are there. So they're randomly picking one IP address, they're assigning to the server. So what we will do, so whenever the server is stopped, they are going to release this IP address. So whenever the server is again started, now you can see we got new IP. So even if you stop the server now, okay, so even if the server is got stopped, okay, 1 minute guys. Okay, so when you restart the servers n number of times, I have restarted this server 100 times. So 100 times the new public IP will be assigned to the server. So we can log into the server with new IP only. So the old IP will be assigned to the some other server. So the person who is using AWS account. So not only me. So many people are using AWS account. So they have a random public IP will be there. That IP will be assigned to the some of the server. So when the server is stopped here, so the IP address will be vanished. So it will be removed from this IP address for this server, and from the pool of IP address, randomly it will pick one IP address and it will allocate to our server. So what are the IP address you are seeing here? So when you restart the server again, so this IP address will go now. So I can take this IP, so I can copy this IP. This is my new IP. So when I stop this server again, okay, so when I stop this server again, so again the public IP will goes off, again it will become empty. So after some time or tomorrow or day after tomorrow, we have started the server. So what AWS will do, so it will create it will assign a new IP to the server. Okay, so that is the policy of AWS whenever we are creating a new server or when we are restarting the server. Okay, so let us refresh it. So the instance got stopped. Again, I can check it, gone. So whenever again I'm going to start the instance here, I'm going to start the server again. So what will happen? So when I refresh the server, refresh. Let us wait for 1 minute. You can see. Okay, so if you are deploying any application to the server, so if you hand over this IP address to the client, so due to urgent issue, we need to update some packages, we need to update some RAM in the server. So what we will do, so again we need to restart the server. In that cases, if the client is accessing the old IP, it will not work. Okay, so always it will be generating the new IP. So when you restart the server, to fix this kind of issue, so they have introduced one elastic IP. So whenever you restart the server, dynamic IP address is allocating, but I don't want dynamic IP. I want to go with static IP. So how many times you restart the server, the IP address will not be changed, should not change. So in that cases, we can go with elastic IP. Okay, so this elastic IP, what we will do? So randomly it will generate one IP. So this IP we can allocate to the server. So how many times you restart the server, this IP will never change. So before allocating the elastic IP, my IP address is this one. I haven't stopped and I haven't restarted the server. So in that case, what I can do? So I can allocate elastic IP. So we can allocate elastic IP for this particular region. Okay, so 18.181.139.85 is the AWS has provided one static IP for us. So this is not associated with any instance. Okay, so if you want to attach this IP address to any instance means click on associate it. So here we have the instances. To which instance you want to associate it? Instead of public IP, this elastic IP will be allocated as a public IP to the server. So I'm going to attach to my third server. This is my instance ID of my third server. Click on associate. So once you associated, you can see the instance details. Okay, now you can go to the dashboard. You can see our third server. So what is your elastic IP is there? So that will become as a public IP. So even if you now stop the instance, so this is my elastic IP server. So this will become as my public IP for my third server. So even if you restart this server, stop instances. Even if you stop the instances, the IP address will never change. So if you want to have a static IP address for your server, okay, so even if you stop it, our IP address will never change. So this is also one of the important interview question they will ask it. Can you tell me the difference between public IP versus private IP versus elastic IP? So elastic IP, if you want to have a static IP for your server, so we can go with elastic IP. Okay, so there are limitations are there. So those limitations we need to go through the one more section is there, like a service limits or quotas are there. So how many subnets we can create it, how many EC2 servers we can create it, how many reserved instances we can create it, how many spot instances we can create it. So per account wise, we have a limitations are there. So we can go through the limitations. We need to know the limits of the quotas, how many resources we can create per each thing. We have a quota are there. So we need to go to the respect to quota. So they will ask some interview questions. How many elastic IPs we can create per account or per particular EC2 service per region. So what we can do, we can refresh the service. Even if the server got stopped, our public IP will never change because we have allocated elastic IP to this server. So now I don't want to allocate this elastic IP to this server. I want to allocate to the some other servers. So we have to release that elastic IP from this server and we can attach to the other server. So what we can do, we can go to the elastic IP, actions, click on release. So this elastic IP we want to release for, we need to disassociate. So this elastic IP I want to remove for this particular instance. Third server I want to remove it. Click on deassociate. Then what we can do, so if you want to attach the same IP address to other server, associate, deassociate and associate. So this time we can select the server. So I want to attach the first server, means first server instance ID, I can select it, I can add it. So now randomly IP address will be allocated to your third server. Okay, so my first server elastic IP will be attached. Okay, so elastic IP we can attach to the one server at a time only. So if you want to attach the same elastic IP to another server, so we have to deassociate and we can associate it. So I want to release this elastic IP, means so I don't want to keep elastic IP in my AWS account. So we can first deassociate it, then we can completely release. So if you click on release, means this elastic IP will be deleted from your account. That's it. Okay, so no elastic IP address are there. So this is the concept behind public IP versus private IP versus elastic IP. And one more thing is like a, so there is one more concept called service quotas is there. So this is like a information for you. So there is no technical or nothing will be there. So this service quota is nothing but, so based upon the services, how many information we can create it. For example, if you go to the EC2, okay, so these are the limitations. How many spot instance request we can make it. Okay, so if you go for elastic IPs, so maximum we can create how many elastic IPs. So this is the default quota value. AWS is providing the default value. So beyond that we can't create it. So how many elastic IPs we can create per region or per particular AWS account or particular region if you take it. So the value is 5. So like that they will ask any type of a questions related to the quotas. Quotas is nothing but restrictions. These many resources only we need to create per account. So if you want to increase the elastic IPs, so we need to contact the support team of AWS. So they will provide the increase the service quota details. Okay, so for every service we have a okay. Same thing if you go for VPC services, VPC. So if you go to the VPC section, so we can see how many subnets we can create, how many route tables for VPC we can create it, 200. Okay, so like that they will ask in the interview question how many route tables for VPC we can create it, we can check it. Okay, so this is the information about your service quotas. So before going interview, they will ask few questions related to the quotas information. So just basic information, get it. So because they will ask in the interview. Okay, so that's all for today. Okay, we will catch up tomorrow, guys. Any doubts, any questions?
No, thanks, but I still didn't receive the video.
Yeah, I requested them. Let me follow up on this one. So try to solve this today. It's as soon as possible today. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.